This is an interview that I had with EJ Everette, who just published her first novel about a year ago on February 11th, 2021. And since then, she has published and written several other novels in fantasy and romance and in other genres, which she'll talk about a little bit in her interview. She says, "Today I'm here to talk about getting started as an indie author, finding your norm, and overcoming obstacles of everyday life. I'm a mother of six, homeschool my horde of children, and a military wife, often left to fend on my own when my husband is away. If I can do it, you can do it too." Okay, so you started writing in 2021, right? That's when you published your first novel.
Yes, my first book came out February 2021, so last year.
Okay, and you're writing, that's part of a series, a 5-part series.
Yes. So
Okay,
that's part of the Ignited Girl series. There's
okay,
5 books total on that one. There will be.
awesome. Okay, so would you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself as an author, as a mom, and what got you into writing in the first place?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm EJ Everett, and I am a mother of 6 kids. My oldest actually moved out a little bit ago, and she will be 20 in a few months and just had her first baby. So I'm also a grandmother, which is crazy because I'm 35. So that's like a whole whoo moment. But I can be a grandma. That's a thing, right? And then I have my 5 kids still at home. I homeschool all of them. So my life is crazy being a parent, of course, whether you have 1 kid or 15 kids, it's insane. But then trying to juggle having any kind of life for myself around everything that happens with my kids. And so, my next oldest is about to be 17. I've been a mom for a long time, and that means my priority for the last 19 years or so has been my kids and raising my children and being supportive to my husband. Not that I haven't had careers, because I have degree in psychological science and I have a degree in behavioral disorders for my master's, and I love school and I love education and I love psychology, and I did pursue that for quite a while. But the demand on my life to go into that field really took away my opportunity to be a mom. And after a couple of years of my kids struggling to just kind of exist with dad always gone at work and mom always gone at work, we kind of made the decision that there needed to be some kind of change. But obviously, especially with my household size, it's dang near impossible to just have one person not working at all. And I have been an avid, voracious reader my entire life. My mom got me started on books when I was very young. I started reading higher levels than my grade level and just completely immersed myself into fictional worlds. Nonfiction didn't matter. Like, I just really love to take the written word and put it in my brain and see what happened with it. And so, actually, about 5 years ago, I was teaching full time. I was a 6th grade math teacher, and not in my career path, but it was something that I was gone during the day when the kids are gone, and I was home at night. And I started getting these voices, like just nonstop, not schizophrenic, um, but these like pictures and images of scenes and these characters and kind of who they were. And finally, after like multiple nights of not being able to sleep, I just got out of bed at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I sat down at my computer and I just started writing. And I wrote until I had to get ready for work. And I had 30 pages of a book plus an outline for the rest of the book. Like, I just had to pour everything out of my brain and it all came out. And so it took me about 2 weeks to finish it. And I wrote Waiting to Ignite, which is my debut. I wrote it and then I never read it, like ever. Like, I don't even, I couldn't even tell you at the time, like all the details. It just purged from my brain. I was like, whew, okay, I did that. That was cool. And then it just sat in my drive for years. And when we started talking about ways for me to be home and more active with the kids, and to be able to put their homeschool as a priority and not put so much on their shoulders, and how I could be available for them, my husband's like, hey, whatever happened to that book you wrote? And I was like, I mean, it's in my drive. It still exists. I didn't get rid of it. He's like, maybe you should look into that. And that was November of 2020. And so I said, oh, maybe I should look into that. So I pulled it up and I read it for the first time. And it's about 121,000 words. So it's a pretty big chunk of a book. And I was crying and I was like getting giddy and all these emotions. And my husband's like, oh, look at you. You're wrapped up in another one of your books. I was like, no, this is the one I wrote. And he's like, why are you acting like you don't know what's going to happen? Why are you so emotional? You wrote this. And I was like, because I don't remember, because this is the first time I'm reading it, and it's so good, I love it. And so after he made fun of me profusely, because that's our relationship, he was like, well, do something about it. So I did. I just jumped straight in and I did all the research. I was already a reader in multiple groups of some of my favorite authors. And so I just kind of stalked different things and started asking questions. And I had some really great authors kind of reach out and be like, hey, if you need help, I'm here. I'd love to answer those questions for you and help mentor and guide you, which is probably my favorite thing about our community, is just how many people are open to helping and mentoring others as they get started. And I mean, that was November of 2020, and my first book came out in February 2021. So it happened really quickly after that. I went through the editing process and the proofreading process, and I got a PA before I even published my first book. And I was like, I'm doing this right. And I started my group on Facebook and I started my Instagram and I just marketed the heck out of it. And Waiting to Ignite came out in February. And so that was just, since then, it's been crazy. I was working a corporate level job at the time. I maintained that job until August of last year. And I'd already put out book 2 in the Ignited Girl series. Book 3 was well on its way to be finished. I'd already started a co-write that was going to be coming out. And I'm like, I don't want to have to meet the demands of this corporate life, because it's still pulling me away from everything. And I can write and I can do this. And, I can take little odd jobs here and there. I'm a professional photographer, so I do that when I need a little bit of extra income. But if I could focus on my kids and I could focus on my writing, I could actually have a life I feel fulfilled in. And that's what happened.
You mentioned doing the marketing on social media. I think that's a place where a lot of indie authors are really lost, because we publish our book and then we're like, okay, somebody buy it, and then nothing happens.
Yes. Yes.
Would you be willing to elaborate
So
on that a little bit?
no, absolutely. I want to definitely preface this with saying I do not have all the answers, and I do not get it right all of the time, or even half of the time, maybe about 33% of the time. I'm doing it well. But really, one of the things that I have found has been the biggest determinant of finding new readers and pulling people in has not been my books. And that kind of hurts me just a little bit to say that, because I want my books to stand on their own and just be so great that people are rushing to them. But personality and presence, those are the two things I would say are the most important when it comes to marketing. When you're in social media, there's the first part of that is social. So engagement with people, just showing who you are. I mean, this is not how I usually look. I do live videos in my group all the time, and they will tell you, messy bun, get stuff done. Like I'm I'm a mom. I live a real life. It's not something huge and glamorous. I'm definitely not a cover model also. And I just let my readers see that I'm really me, and I'm very extroverted, and I don't really have much of a filter or shame factor. So that comes out, and I get to show them like my goofy self that's just a real person. And that has brought so many people into kind of my fold. People who are like, not only do I love your books now that I've met you and I've read your books, or I read your books and then met you type of thing, but I want to talk about them, and I want to tell people about this great person that I've met, even if it is just through social engagement on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. So being that presence and constantly interacting and showing them that they matter, that's what's kept my readers, who are now like, I'll read whatever you write. It doesn't matter. Like my first book, Ignited Girl, is and it is definitely a slow burn. The first 3 books, we finally get some kissing in the 3rd book, right? Because there's a lot of trauma and things that my main character has to go through. My second series that I am co-writing is male female, and it's like urban fantasy, and it's like more of a medium burn, and we do have some sexy times in the first book, and it's a completely different kind of feel. And my newest series that I just put out the first book for, Pandora's Hell, is fast moving, supernatural, post-apocalyptic, older female. She's 26. She's already a badass. She's not having to we're not watching her go through her post-teenage years just trying to figure stuff out. She has no filter. She uses foul language as a description for everything. There's a lot of involved. So like it's a much totally different from where I started, right? So I've got all of these different projects and they attract different types of readers. And I think that's also helped because they'll find me with one and then they're like, I really enjoyed this writing style. I've now got to meet EJ through social media, also that person, other stuff, even if it wasn't traditionally on my like typical genre. And so I've got readers who will tell me, I don't usually read this, or this isn't really my thing, or I don't usually like this, but I really, really am glad that I took a chance and I tried your stuff because I knew I liked your writing style. I run ads. I have a couple. I don't run a ton. I know some people are like they have 15, 20, 40 ads going at one time. I'm just getting started. I took a class on Amazon ads and now I've helped a couple other authors as well. And I use that as kind of my gift of mentoring is, all right, I've got this ad thing going. I know how to do it. I can be honest and say that Ignited Girl series, I haven't marketed for the last probably 4 months. I've been pushing the School of Scars and Shadows, which is my co-write urban fantasy Reaper Mage kind of series, and Pandora's Hell, which is my Box of Sins duet supernatural fantasy, angels, demons, seven deadly sins kind of craziness. And so I've focused well, not number one in the whole world well, but like good for an indie author who's just starting. Is very consistent still. And I credit that to my Amazon ads because they are there in the background. And then, I have my engagement and moving around and talking to people, and I go to book signing events as much as I can and try to get involved with other readers or other authors as well in groups and just engage as much as possible and build those relationships. So I think all of those are contributing, but I know that I feel that my Amazon ads running kind of in the background for Ignited Girl has what's kept people coming in. And then maybe the rest of those things help them to stay. So I think there's credit in them, but I think if you're doing them alone, kind of like you said, it's just really impersonal. There's a disconnect there. And that they can help you, they can save you, they can be a huge blessing, but the way to really make those long-term readers that are just like salivating at the mouth waiting for you to put something else out, that's engagement, that's your personality and your presence.
What was the name of your ads course, if you don't mind me asking? And is it something that you'd recommend other people taking?
I took the 5-day Amazon ad challenge with Brian Cohen.
Yeah, okay,
It
yeah.
was recommended to me by a couple authors, and yeah, and they said that they've taken it multiple times. Like each time they learned something a little new. I think that it's a ton of really good information. It really lays out the process for you. He does a beautiful job after he tells you all about it, so that you kind of get both and attaches those documents. They get sent to you via email. And it's a free course. And then afterwards, you can opt, if you'd like to purchase a kind of like a long-term school for it. So you can get even deeper into the Amazon advertising process. For me, I felt like for now where I'm at, that 5-day course was just really great. I just soaked up all that information and I dove right in. I tend to do very well with learning new things. And so I've taken my creative liberty with it. And now I've been able to help other people and give them kind of that same process and understanding. It's a closed thing. So he'll start advertising like, hey, I'm going to do, I think November was the last one that he did, which means there should be another one coming up soon. I think he does 2 or 3 a year, and he'll start. There's a Facebook group for it, the Brian Cohen's 5-day Amazon challenge, and he'll start posting, say, "Hey, we've got another one coming up. You can sign up. Once you sign up, you get access to the group when the time comes. You're there, but then after that, all the content's gone. Like it's only for that 5-day. The group you can still interact with, but like all the content is no longer available. So it's really something that you want to keep your eyes peeled for and make sure that you have time, because there is a lot of homework. You've got to be posting, you've got to be showing examples of what you're doing that's following what he is teaching so that he can give that feedback. It comes with a lot of really great incentives besides just the advertising assistance, because he puts like giveaways and he's like, I'll pick somebody who did their homework and, they can win a couple $100 or something. So that's, even more beneficial to do your schoolwork. I'm sure my kids would do homework more often if I gave them a couple $100 for doing it.
Right.
But but it's very narrowed down. So the group it's really great. And I can go in there and I can ask questions about my ads even now. And people who have been there and doing it so long will be able to give feedback. But like I said, the course, all the material from the course is only during that time frame, and then it closes out.
Any other advice that you would give to somebody who's either struggling to write a book in the first place or struggling to get it published?
I would say when it comes to writing, get it out. Like, don't ignore when the muse is active. It's a number one piece of advice I think that you'll hear from people who have been doing this, even brand new. Like, it was something that I learned right away. It was like, if they're talking, get it out, right? Like, if there's an idea, get it out. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and I just have this like whole book idea, and I have my phone, like I have a note um pad on my phone, and I just like like get it all out of my brain right now, and then I'll revisit it when I wake up, when I can look at it later and then maybe expand. And sometimes those ideas might even take precedence over what I'm working. Right now I'm in that situation. I've got 3 series going. One's about to be wrapped up because Pandora's only a duet. So Pandora's Hell is already out, and Pandora's Revelation will be coming out within the next few months. And then it'll be done. But I was hit with the bug, a muse started talking, and I've got a whole other series that is just really active in my head. And at first I was like, oh, I really need to focus on this other stuff and keep pushing on this, but I know I'm still working on those, but the muse is talking now, right? And so that, write when you can write when it comes to you. It doesn't have to be pretty the first time. It doesn't have to be okay looking. Even with beer goggles, you might take it home the first time. It could be so fugly, beer goggles don't help you the first time, right? But you have the opportunity to then embellish and go through and edit and make it prettier until it's the gorgeous piece that you want to submit. So when it comes to writing, number one piece of advice, get it out, whatever form it's in, as raw as it is, and express that so that you don't lose it. Because if you're anything like me, your brain is going to ping pong to about 47 other things. If you don't dump the information now, it'll get lost by the time we're done with the day. And then when it comes to like actually putting that book out, and I don't try to sugarcoat stuff, it is terrifying. Not only is it this, will people like me? It's, how am I going to mess this up? And this is with every book you'll ever release. I mean, I say that with 8 books under my belt right now. It might be different for people who have put out 50, but every time there's nerves. When I put out Waiting to Ignite, I was very, very, very much a noob. And my first paperback came in and it was a disaster. The cover was a mess. The words were all crooked. I have one like diehard fan who is the only person that I know of who has a copy of that first paperback in all of its hideousness. Like, she bought it as soon as it went live before I could fix it. And then I fixed it, I thought. And so then I went like a month and a half with this book that's like this thick, because all of the words were like shrunk into the center of the page. And so even though Waiting to Ignite is a thicker book, it should not have been like 700 pages. Not a thing. So then I was like, well, what do I do now? Like, oh, this is just a disaster. At least my ebook looks okay, but my paperback is hideous. And I'm giving this away to people. Thank God I'm not making them pay for it, because like, whoo, but then I learned to network, and I learned to talk to other people and not be afraid that if I asked for help, that would make me seem weak. Instead, asking for help helped me to grow and be stronger, and to learn the things, so that when I finally fixed it and the paperback's beautiful now, my second book came out and I was prepared. I knew, hey, do this with the formatting. Don't do this. Don't do this. Whereas if I just stayed quiet and suffered in my silence, I would have continued to put out holy hot messes. And so that's a huge part there. I also would shop around with your cover. And one of the questions that you sent me was, if you could do anything different about your first book, like what would you do? And while I love the original covers for my Ignited Girl series, book 1, 2, and 3 have beautiful covers. They were done by an amazing cover artist, Francesca Vance. She does Reaper Designs. She's fantastic. They're not on market. And I didn't know what that meant when I started. And so I just thought, ooh, pretty. I like it. It kind of like, it looks like what my character would look like. It looks like what my book should be about. Let's do it. And so I invested money and time and, got these covers done. And consistently, I have other authors coming and saying, hey, your covers don't actually go together. Hey, if I put these on my shelf, they're all wonky. I can't even tell they're in the same series. Hey, like, this might be a problem while you're not reaching fantasy romance readers, and instead you're reaching paranormal who are like, oh wait, I don't want to read this, this isn't fantasy like I thought it was. You need to be more on market. And I had to learn what that meant. And now I've got new covers that I just had done, and I'm rebranding, and it hurts a little bit because they're more consistent with what's out there, which means they look a lot like all of the other covers for that genre. And I thought that that was a bad thing, but it's not, right? So by reaching out and talking to others, by not being afraid to say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, someone help me, I was able to not only learn, but I think offer better products for my readers. And that's really important to me, because my first series, especially, that's for me. That was me. I mean, I got married at 17. I've been a mom my whole life. I didn't experience any of the traditional type of like going out and dating and everything. I've my husband, that's who I got, and I love him and I'm glad. And we've been together almost 18 years, but like still there's a lot of things that I didn't get to live that life. And so my first series is me like living vicariously through my characters. And it's my series for me, not so much because I wanted a bunch of people to fall in love with it. Do I want them to? Hell yeah, I want them to. That's a big deal. But I wrote it for me, so I thought the cover should be for me. I can keep them in private. They should be to market. That's a big deal. So really taking that opportunity to talk to people, finding mentors, and they're everywhere in places you least expect it, from authors that you think would be too busy to reach out and help you. They're there. I've had authors who are some of the names in our genre, in indie publishing and romance and reverse harem and stuff, especially, who have messaged me and said, hey, let me help you. And I've had authors who, are just getting started, who are like, hey, I actually have a mentor who is a big author and I've learned this, let me help you. And I'm only been around for just over a year, and I see people struggling, and I'm like, ooh, I did that, I totally screwed that up, let me help you. Like, so really just being open to that is important. So getting to market, I don't necessarily think you have to write to market. There's a lot of back and forth with that. I think write what you're passionate about and where your muse is, but be mindful of what is out there, what you need to have out there, what's important, and what people are going to look at, and they're going to know, boom, this is fantasy, boom, this is paranormal, boom, this is contemporary, whatever you're writing, whatever genre you're writing in, so that you attract the right type of audience. Your target audience is really important.
Yeah, I like that last part you said about writing for yourself, but being mindful. I think that that's key, because it drives me nuts when people are like, just write to market, because that suggests that we're taking away some of our own experiences and our own creative juices,
Right.
and like just writing for what people want. But I think that you can be mindful of what people want, but still be yourself and still be creative, and let
Yes.
your inspiration come out on the page.
Oh yeah, that's vital. I was talking with my PA recently, and we were talking about how what's hot in market right now, to market right now in some of the subgenres, is like monster, really heavy monster romance. And don't get me wrong, that stuff can get really hot, and things that I never imagined I would be like, okay. I'm like, okay, right? Like, how you doing? Okay, I didn't see this. I could never write that. Like, I don't have that in me. That's not a thing for me. I could probably try to force write it and you would be able to tell. But just because it's what's popular and it's what's to market and it's what people are like, man, I discovered this person's and this person, so now I want more like this. That doesn't mean that I need to write that, right? Like, that's for the people who can write that. The things that I write, people want that too. And keeping that in mind and reminding myself that there's people who want what I'm going to put out there. I don't have to change to be what people who want this also want that, right? Like, my readers will come to me, and it might take a while. And most people tell you it takes you 3 to 5 years of constantly like putting stuff out and being present to really have what we call that reader base of just like enough people that you don't have to worry about money. Like, royalties will be coming in and you'll be doing well, and people will know your name and they'll be blasting you all over the place. Sometimes even longer than that, depending on your genre. So, that's okay. Let time be do what it's supposed to do. Just be you, stay true to what you want to do, and try not to panic if you're not a number one best-selling author on Amazon with your first or 15th book. Like it'll hit when it hits, and it'll hit the right people. And that's what you should be going for, telling your story, because it's going to go to the people who need it and who want it, and it's going to matter to them.
I agree. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with you today. That was really, really appreciated.